To Lab 5. Question 1. The free market eliminates a shortage by letting the price rise. This then encourages demanders to demand less and suppliers to supply more, thereby eliminating the shortage. Question 2. When a price ceiling is in place below the market price, the quantity demand is larger than the quantity price supplied. When this happens, demanders will wait in long lines and waste their efforts in pursuit of scarce goods. Question 3a. The equilibrium price per gallon of milk will be $3 and the equilibrium quantity of milk will be 3,500 gallons of milk. Question 3b. There will be a shortage of 2,100 gallons of milk if the government places a price ceiling at $2. At $2, there is going to be 2,000 gallons of milk sold.
For question 4, if the government were to impose a price cut from insurance companies by 30%, despite the lower price, fewer people will actually be covered by the health insurance companies because it would result in a shortage of goods that the health insurance companies can supply, which in this case would be the amount of people that can be covered by the health insurance company. So less people would be covered. For question 5a, consumer surplus will be larger in the short run because the shortage is smaller and the consumers get lower prices for the same quantity of goods than if it was in the long run. For question 5b, rent control hurts landowners more in the short term because the supply is more inelastic, whilst in the long run, an elastic supply would result in the landowners and the builders having more ventures they could undertake to mitigate the losses due to the shortage. For question 6a, the total value of wasted time is given by the red area. This will be the price difference between the willingness of people to pay and the controlled price, which is $50 multiplied by the quantity supplied during the shortage, which is 100. So that would be $5,000. For 6b, the sum of the lost consumer and producer surplus is given by the blue area. That is again the price difference of $50 times the difference between the equilibrium quantity and the quantity during shortage, which is 100 again, times a half due to the area being a triangle. So that will be a half times 50 times 100, which is $2,500. For C, we wouldn't actually need the original market price. Instead, we'll just need the willingness of people to pay. And to get that, we would just see where the quantity supplied due to shortage intersects the demand curve and see the price people are willing to pay for that quantity and use that for our calculations.
For question 7, it asks, what's the widest price range for people illegally selling where you could both find a buyer and a seller? So the widest price range would be from $50 to $160, which is $110. And this is because any price below $50 would be, you could buy that legally. And there's less demand above 160 than there is quantity legally supplied. So all people over 160 could already be supplied legally. So any price below 160 and above 50 would you'd be able to find a buyer and a seller. For question 8.1, it asks indicate the shortage and the price per out-of-network transaction after the fee ban. So after the fee ban, the price would be 0, which is the red dot, and then the shortage is the blue line, which is all of people who would be supplied but cannot be supplied at this current price. For question B, it asks for the exact amount for the producer and consumer surpluses, and they would both be 0. The producer surplus is 0 because there are no businesses willing to supply at the rates, and then the consumer surplus will be 0 because there's no trade happening, because there's no consumers are buying or using out-of-network ATM. For question 9, it asks, there's a rectangle and a triangle, and it asks which one represents the value lost from deals that get made, and which one represents the value lost from deals that do get made. So the deals that do get made are going to be the deals below the price control and to the left of the quantity, which is going to be the rectangle below A. So A is going to be the value lost from the deals that do get made, and then B is to the right of the quantities supplied and above the price control. So B is going to be the deals that don't get made because there's not enough quantity for those deals to be made.
So for question 10A, we are asked how much consumer surplus does Harry enjoy? So Harry enjoys a consumer surplus of $1,700 as he is willing to pay $2,000 in rent, but then he ends up paying $300 as this is the government-controlled rent that he ends up paying. And for part B, we are asked if he's better off after the whole transaction, and I genuinely believe that he is, seeing as at the end of the transaction, he ends up making an extra $300. The consumer surplus in part A would be $200,000 as the whole 40,000 as the whole quantity of $40,000 of 4,000 goods would be traded, as the goods would be handed out randomly without taking into account the actual willingness to pay, and the price would be and the price willingness to pay would range from 110 to 10. But then for part B, where the goods have come down to just 1,000 in quantity, and the only the higher value users will be able to get the good. The willingness to pay range will go from 110 to 10 to 110 to 100, and the quantity will go down from 4,000 to 1,000, thereby making the new consumer surplus 5,000. This has been our presentation. Thank you, and we appreciate you for listening.